Hey, baby girl. You still waiting for mommy on your step? Aren't you tired of waiting there? Huh? What you doing? It won't be too long now. Mommy's gonna go make one more video and then we can go play with the ball. You want to go play with the ball? You want mommy to play with you? Huh? Why you no answer? There. Low five me. Can you low five me? Good girl. That was hard because we're sitting on a step, but we're too fat for the steps, so half of hers on. She's using up 2 steps. Huh? Are you a good girl? Yes, you are. You're gonna wait for me? Huh? Then we go outside. You want to go outside? Yes, you do. Say bye-bye. You're stupid, Mommy. I can't talk. Huh? See you in a bit. Bye. Hi guys, today I'm going to give you my top 6 tips on how to make your plants bloom often. Now my tip number 1 is the plant size, the pot size I mean. Let's put these over here. Now sometimes some people will ask me why my plants are not blooming and blah blah blah, and I'll say send me a picture, and they send me pictures and they have their plants in these size pots. This is a no-no, guys. African violets like to have their roots really tight in the pots, and this is way too big. The biggest pots you should ever use for African violets, as of today, we never know in the future, they may have like big monsters out, but for now, the really largest pot that should be used is a 5-inch, and very rarely. The most common for the standards is a 4-inch, and the 3-inch pots and the 2-inch pots for the smaller ones. A good rule to follow is to use pots that are about 1/3 of the size of the leaves. Now you measure from one side to the other, and then you divide that by 3 inches. Measure it in inches, divided by 3, and that will give you approximately the size of the pot that should be. All of these are not potted in the right pots. Of course, I don't have the right samples. All of these should be in 2-inch pots. Because I have a business and the 2-inch pots are too small for me, I do grow them out in 3 inches. But a good rule of thumb is measure your plant, divide it by 3, use that size of pot. African violets will normally bloom up when their roots are tight in the pot, and when it's too big, the roots do not reach out to the side, and the plants just grow and grow and grow, but they don't produce any flowers. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, you want to add some fertilizers to your plants. Now, this is a touchy one, because yes, they need fertilizers, but at the same time they're a little bit fragile. So every time you buy something, you want to use fertilizers about, like, I hope you can see this, it says, where is it, right here, the numbers. You want to have similar numbers, but the number in the middle is higher. So most of the fertilizers will indicate numbers on the boxes. This one is 15, 30, 15. And I use a bloom booster in the winter time, and mine is a 10, 52, 10. This one I do not suggest for a long period, but I do use it because in the winter time I plant everything up and they need to root up quickly. So I use a very high number, and this is very high, to promote the root growth, but I don't fertilize at all during the summertime. So once in a while you could boost them up with something that has a higher middle number, and the rest of the time you could feed with something that's more stable, like 15, 30, 15. It's a good choice. So mine are from Miracle Grow, but many companies make fertilizers. You can choose which one you can try a few. One thing you want to stay away from is urea nitrogen. It's very bad for African violets, and this is something, I hope you can see, this is something you will find on the label. Like this one, I can't really read it. My nitrogen is It's not urea nitrogen. Urea is spelled UREA, and if it's made with urea nitrogen, it should be on the label. So just stay away from that type of fertilizer and you should be fine. I think I didn't even tell you what the numbers mean, but the middle number is the one that we're most looking out for, because this one is the one that will feed the roots and promote blossoms. It goes together. When you feed the roots, the more they have roots, the more they will bloom. So it goes together. So that was tip number 2. Oh, I forgot to say, with the violets, you should fertilize every time you water, but at very low doses. They don't like to receive high doses of fertilizer because the roots can be burnt. I say this often. The roots of the violets are very, very delicate. They're tiny, tiny little hairs, and these things can burn them. So what we do, we dilute it by 4 times or by 8 times and just give them fertilizer every time. So they're getting really low doses, but they're getting some all the time. So they're happy that way. That's how we grow violets. So that was tip number 2. Tip number 3 is sometimes to shoot out blossom stalks, a violet needs a lot of energy. So these are very small. These are very small plants, but sometimes, like when I go to my mom, like she has standard size African violets that are growing like so big. It has like 50 rows of leaves on there, and of course they're not blooming because the plant has so many leaves to keep alive. It doesn't have any stored up energy left to shoot up blossom stalks. So one thing you can do, if you are that type of person who just leaves all the old outer leaves on it, you can remove a row or two from the older leaves, and that will help the plant have more energy to do something else than just making all those extra leaves live. That's tip number 3. Tip number 4 is the humidity of your home. When the little, let me see here, these are pretty well out. Okay. When the little blossoms start to come out, like right here, there's a little baby coming out. If the air is super dry in your home and the plant goes a tad dry, they can abort right now, right at that point. The plant has 2 functions in life. One is to live and 2 is to multiply. This is true for every living organism on the planet. Its goal is to live and multiply to be assured that the species will remain alive. So its function is to shoot out the babies, but if it goes into a situation where it's between its life or the little flower, it will choose itself. It will keep itself alive, so it will abort the little flower. So if your home is very dry, and this can happen in the wintertime, you may not even be noticing that it is shooting out little flowers, but they're dying right at the beginning. This is something you have to look for. So we don't want high humidity that, the water's leaking on the walls. We don't want all of you to have mushrooms in your homes, but if you live in a very, very dry home, this could be a cause for non-blooming. Tip number 5 is not enough lights. Some of you are growing in your windows. That's fine. The plant should be in the window that receives the morning light and the early afternoon light, and it should be about 12 inches maximum from the window. If it's further from the window by 12 inch, the light is more diffused and is no longer enough to feed the plants. And the other option is fluorescent lights. Your tubes may be too old. Even if they're still lit up, it doesn't mean that they're good for the plants. I will talk about this in another video. I know all this information. I just need to do the research again to get the right terms to explain it all to you. But regular fluorescent lights, they're good in the beginning, but they become very inefficient for the plants very quickly. This is what I will talk about in the other video. My preferred choice right now is I am changing everything to LEDs. I'm not talking about LED strips. I'm talking about bulbs exactly like this, but they are LEDs. I bought a few cases last year, and I'm really, really happy with the results. And from the research that I have done, the LEDs will be as efficient from the time they go in to the end of their life for the plants. So what I mean by this is when you're using fluorescents, you have to change them once in a while. Actually, quite often. I changed mine every 8 to 10 months. Even if they're still lit up, they're like not no longer good for the plants. So you may think, well, I have all my plants on their fluorescents. They're open at 10 hours a day. I don't know why my plants are not blooming. Well, they're not receiving the light is on, but there's no more food in the ball in the tube. So I will explain this more in detail with the appropriate information. But for now, if you're getting a new setup and buying new fluorescents, go for the LED ones. And they're cheaper by the case. They are more expensive when you purchase them, of course. They last a lot longer. They use up a lot less electricity. These don't cost very much to run to begin with, but the LEDs are even more efficient. And you never have to change them until they shut down. When they're done, they're done. You throw them out, but they will last longer. These I have in my garage. There's I don't know how many hundreds of these that are still working. Like for us, they work. We see the light, but the plants were not very happy underneath them. Anyways, I will again come back with a lot more details on this because right now I'm not explaining it well. But lighting, that was my tip number 5. Oh, and I don't even know if I told you this, the light should be on about 10 to 12 hours a day. Tip number 6 is the last one, but it's the most important one. Repotting. The soil in the pots becomes old at some point. There's two things that happen. The soil becomes old, and it also becomes packed with just junk. And repotting is the best way to stimulate a plant to rejuvenate it, just start over, and it makes them so happy. Fresh soil is like a kid in a pool, in a jello pool. They're very happy, and it promotes the growth. You may even have a pH problem that you are not aware of because it's kind of hard to detect that unless you start testing, and repotting is something that would fix this. So the first thing I will tell anybody that will ask me what to do, I will start with, have you repotted your plants? And if not, repot them. If you were sitting in your socks for a year, the same socks day after day, you'd be pretty happy to change them too. So try to think of what's going on underneath is as important as the top. So do that. And you may have a plant that is, I call them lazy plants. There's not many of them out there, but there are a few varieties that they're just lazy plants and just will not bloom. This happens. Normally, when those plants are repotted, or they kind of need to receive a stress, and sometimes they will put them in gear into, okay, I need to go into survival mode. And for plant, survival mode means living and reproducing. So that can put them into the blooming mode. Some very particular plants, and this is not the norm, but some they just won't bloom. There's nothing you can do about it. If you have a plant that's been there for a few years and it never did anything for you, and you're doing everything right and you're not seeing the flowers, something I can suggest is to take leaves from the plant and start over, or just throw it in the bin. If it's you've been working on it for 3 years and it's not doing anything for you, at some point you can say, well, that space is going to be used up for something better. So that's my 6 tips for today. I really hope this helps. And always remember, the plants have 2 goals in life: live and reproduce. So if they have the right conditions, they should be reproducing. The violets reproduce in 2 ways. They either create suckers, little baby plants that grow on the plant, and the other way is to go into seed, and they need to push up some blooms to do that. I really hope this has helped. If you have further questions, just put them in the comments below. And good luck to all of you, and hope you get many, many blooms. Bye.